No spin-off setup, no post-credit teaser, no surprise Boba Fett cameo crawling out of the Sarlacc pit while winking at the camera. Just a story that knew when to stop and had the guts to do it. And yet here we are, 40 years later, still poking at it like it's a campfire that won't go out. We got prequels about taxis, sequels about GPS, tracking through hyperspace, and 1,000 hours of TV, trying to explain how Palpatine returned, as if anyone actually wanted that. It's like Star Wars turned into homework, mandatory viewing, just to understand what's even going on anymore. But back then, it was raw and honest, and kind of funky in the best way. The lightsabers hummed like they meant it, the ships had weight, and the Force was still mysterious, instead of some half-baked blood test. Return of the Jedi didn't need to explain everything. It just needed to feel right, and it did. Somehow, even with Ewoks tossing rocks at armored troopers, we still bought into every moment. And that final shot of Luke watching the flames. Man, that hit. There's a reason people remember that, instead of whatever the heck happened on Exegol. It felt earned, like we actually saw something close, something final, something bigger than just another chapter. That kind of emotional closure is a lost art now, buried under piles of retcons and Funko Pop cameos. Look, I get it. We all want more. More stories, more lightsabers, more Jedi jumping in slow motion. But sometimes more just means worse. Sometimes the best thing a story can do is let go. And maybe the reason Return of the Jedi still feels so powerful is because it had the courage to say goodbye, and actually mean it. In this video, we're going to break down why Return of the Jedi wasn't just the end of the original trilogy. It was the end of Star Wars as a mythic story that knew when to walk away. We'll talk about the themes, the character arcs, the absolute chaos that followed, and why this one movie might be the last time Star Wars actually knew what it was. There's something about Return of the Jedi that just feels different. Not just because it's the final film in the original trilogy, not just because it wraps everything up with Ewoks and fireworks, but because it captures a kind of storytelling we just don't see anymore. The kind that feels like it was made by actual people, with actual ideas, not a spreadsheet and a stockholder call. Have you ever noticed how the entire movie is soaked in myth? Like it actually believes in what it's saying? Luke wears black like he's becoming his father, but refuses to fall like him. Vader doesn't just get a redemption arc, he gets a spiritual one. And the Emperor isn't some Snokenar, he's a living manifestation of pure evil. Old school fairy tale evil, like Satan in a cloak. It's not trying to be clever, it's trying to be timeless. The world feels handcrafted in Return of the Jedi. Jabba's palace isn't just a location, it's a mood. It's grimy, weird, and somehow more alive than anything in the sequels. Even the Rancor Pit has more personality than all of Exegol combined. It's not perfect, but it breathes. And that's what pulls you in. There's no multiverse nonsense, no lazy nostalgia buttons being smashed every 5 minutes. It's just one story. With stakes, with consequences, with real emotional beats. And it never once stops to wink at the camera, or say, hey, remember that thing you liked in 1977? It knows it's the end of a journey. So it doesn't need to beg you to care. And that's what makes it so fascinating. Not because it's the best Star Wars movie, but because it's the last one that still feels like Star Wars without apology. It closes the curtain without making a mess backstage. And the more you go back, the more you realize, nothing that came after quite stuck the landing like this. Then the prequels showed up and said, hey, what if we took all that and made it about politics and midichlorians? And don't get me wrong, I get why people defend them. But you can't tell me that I Hate Sam belongs in the same universe as I Am a Jedi like my father before me. It's like watching Shakespeare, and then someone walks on stage holding a can of Monster Energy and yells Trade Federation. And the sequels? Oh boy, the sequels. Those movies are like a group project where no one talks to each other. Force Awakens says copy and paste. Last Jedi says delete everything. Rise of Skywalker says Control-Z and panic. You can literally feel the boardroom rewrites in every scene. It's like watching a sandwich being built by 6 different chefs with no recipe. It honestly hurts to think about. How something that once felt so raw and magical turned into a theme park attraction with lightsabers for sale at every turn. Star Wars was never supposed to be clean. It was supposed to be messy and soulful and kind of weird, like Return of the Jedi. Remember that scene where Luke throws away his lightsaber? That moment hit harder than any explosion or space battle. It wasn't just a cool character beat. It was the emotional climax of 3 movies building up to a single act of defiance. Now compare that to Rey handing a lightsaber to nobody in particular, while Palpatine screams about being all the Sith. It's not just about nostalgia. It's about weight. About meaning. About a story that actually felt like it had an ending. Return of the Jedi didn't need to keep the door open. It slammed it shut, locked it, and walked away with dignity. And somehow, that feels like a loss now. Because deep down, we all wanted to believe that magic would come back, that maybe one of these shows or spin-offs would recapture what once was. But every time it tries, it just reminds us of how far we've drifted, like chasing a memory that keeps fading the closer you get. So when we go back to Endor, to that final pyre, to Luke watching his father become Anakin again, it's bittersweet now. Not just because of what happened in the story, but because that story actually ended, and the rest, all of it, has just been noise since then. But let's not forget how bold Return of the Jedi really was. It took risks. It opened with no crawl recap, just a slow reveal of Vader's entrance and a quiet tension building through every breath. It brought us Jabba the Hutt in full grotesque puppet glory, not for laughs, but as an actual crime lord with real menace. That throne room scene is still one of the greatest cinematic moments ever filmed. The lighting, the silence, the way the Emperor just needles at Luke until he snaps, and then, the twist. Luke doesn't win by fighting, he wins by refusing to fight. That's the stuff myths are made of. That's storytelling. And then there's the space battle. Still jaw-droppingly impressive. No oversaturated particle effects or shaky cam chaos. Just expertly timed editing, models flying with weight and texture, and music that actually meant something. It felt like war, not like a video game trailer. Even the Ewoks, which everyone loves to dunk on, serve a real purpose. They remind us that the Empire's arrogance is its downfall, that technology doesn't always beat nature. And yeah, they're fuzzy and silly, but they're also brave and committed and weirdly believable in that world. But here's the thing, maybe that spirit isn't completely gone. Maybe we see flickers of it in moments like Andor, daring to slow things down and tell a real story. Or Rogue One giving us a glimpse at sacrifice with weight and consequence. It's not all bad, just rare. There's still a chance to make Star Wars feel real again. Not in a nostalgic sense, but in the sense of heart. The kind where characters grow, where endings mean something, where the Force is more than a set of powers, it's a philosophy. Return of the Jedi left us that blueprint. We don't need to recapture the past. We need to learn from it. To remember what made that final chapter feel earned and permanent. The drama wasn't in the spectacle. It was in the decisions, the hesitation, the fear, and the courage to walk away. We've got storytellers out there who still believe in that kind of Star Wars. It's just up to the people in charge to let them tell those stories. Less product, more purpose. It's possible. But we've got to stop treating this universe like a toy shelf. And if they ever do get it right again, it'll be because someone looked at Return of the Jedi and said, This is what it's supposed to feel like. Because the truth is, Return of the Jedi was a goodbye. Not just to the characters we loved, but to a version of storytelling that Hollywood doesn't seem interested in anymore. It was handmade, flawed, intimate, and proud of it. Everything after it tried to reopen a book that was already closed, and in doing so, it kind of erased the point. Luke had already won, Anakin had already come back, the story was already told, but they just couldn't leave it alone. And maybe that's the real tragedy of Star Wars. Not that it ended, but that it didn't stay ended. That it kept going long after the story stopped having anything left to say. And now we're stuck watching ghosts of what it used to be. But still, Return of the Jedi remains untouched, untainted. The last real chapter. It stands as a reminder of what happens when you let a story end on its own terms. With meaning. With depth. With soul. So yeah, maybe we'll never get another Star Wars like that again. But at least we had one. And that, more than anything, is why it still matters. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy my videos, please consider looking at my pinned comment and checking out the links for my Amazon storefront. It contains my favorite Legos, my gear in which I make videos, and comics that I read on a daily basis. I update it constantly, so please, take a moment and click on the link. On top of that, check out my second channel, Critical Analysis Hub Plus, and my third channel, Critical Analysis Hub XP. Just one click would go on a long way in supporting my channels and future in YouTube.